Good morning, y'all. So I'm doing my weekly video on something this week. It is fasting. So I'm getting so many questions about fasting, and the Lord Yahuwah has taught me so much about fasting and biblical fasting. So let's just jump into it. I want to make sure these videos are shorter than what I'm normally doing because I talk a lot. And people have really short attention spans. So let me try to keep this as short as possible. So the first question is, what's a fast and why? So in the church today, there's all kinds of fasts. There's Daniel fast, there's fasting from things, there's water fast, or food fast with just drinking water. There's so many different fasts in the church. So when the church does a church-wide fast, they let you choose whatever fast you want to choose. And that's not biblical. And so I want to tell you why, and I want to show you why those actually aren't fasts, what a fast is, and all the things the Lord has taught me on this journey. So let me just start with my testimony. So I used to do, our church always does a 21, or the church we used to be a part of, always did a 21-day fast at the beginning of the year. And so the majority of the church would fast from sugar, from social media, from whatever thing they wanted to fast from. So that's usually what I would do. And then we would do like a 1-week water only fast. And those were great. That's all fine and dandy, but it wasn't until Yahuwah like specifically told me to start fasting for him, for revelation, for breakthrough, to hear his voice, that it changed everything. So I started fasting like not because the church told me to, because I would spend time with God in my prayer time, and he would be very specific. I want you to fast for 3 days. I want you to fast for 7 days. I want you to fast for 5 days. Like he would just tell me how long he wanted me to fast. And so while I would be fasting, like floodgates of wisdom would come on me, like things I don't want to know. Okay, so the Lord would teach me so many things I can't even explain. And if I could do a whole other video on the things the Lord has taught me in my fasts. But one of the biggest things that have come out of fasting is I began to recognize the voice of God. I began to be able to differentiate between my thoughts and his thoughts, the enemy's lies and his truth. And it really taught me like when God is speaking and when I'm just in my flesh. And I think that's really important. So many people ask, well, how do you know when it's God? And fasting is going to be one of the greatest ways to hear the voice of God and to know when he's directing and speaking to us. Now, I do want to put in a disclaimer here. If you are easily offended, if you don't want to hear the truth, I probably would stop watching this video right now. Because once you know, you can't erase that, and the Holy Spirit and conviction will continue to speak to you. So if you don't want to know the truth, you probably should not keep watching, because this is not going to be easy things to hear, and you're going to want to justify that it's not true. But I'm telling you, once you live by the truth of the Word of God, everything changes. Your faith changes, your relationship with Yah changes. It changes everything. So these are the things that the Lord taught me. So I was about on my, I don't know. And like when I would fast with the church, I didn't really know why I was doing it. It was just the church did it, so I did it. It was almost like a challenge to see if I could make it as long as they made it. And I remember fasting a 3-day fast when I was in high school, We did it as a youth group, and the whole time we were fasting, we would have a, what is it called? A lockdown in the gym of our church, and we would play games, and we would worship, and we would eat. We wouldn't eat, sorry. We wouldn't eat until the very end. But I do remember fasting as a child, but it was like more of a game, of a challenge. It wasn't, and it was because like the church told me to. We did it together as a big group, which there's nothing wrong with that. But when you start fasting because you have a relationship with God and he's telling you, I want you to do this fast, 3-day fast, a 2-day fast. I want you to do this. And literally in the fast, instead of eating, every time you eat, every time you feel a hunger pain, you're going to get in the Word of God and you're going to listen. And your ears are going to be more open. Your senses are heightened when you're not eating and you're not drinking. And so you can hear and see things that you normally wouldn't. You can see like your sin will start to be exposed because when you're hangry, you see. Now, hangry is also just like our flesh coming out because we're uncomfortable. And so it is important to know what you're like when you're hangry because it will expose sin within you. Anyway, I was on like I would say, I don't really totally remember, like my 5th fast, where the Lord just told me specifically, it was just between me and God. Nobody knew that I was fasting. My family started to pick it up because I would not eat with them. But it was about my 5th fast, and I remember I was in the Word and I was drinking water, and I remember Yah saying, "Why are you drinking water?" And I was like, "Because I'm fasting." And he said, "Show me in the Bible where someone drank water during a fast." So that began my journey on what is a fast biblically. So let's get to the nitty-gritty. I have a bunch of verses about this, but let's get down to the Hebrew word. So the Hebrew word is som, T-S-O-O-M. Some say T-S-U-M. And it actually means to cover your mouth. When you cover your mouth, you're not drinking. It means abstaining from food. And then the Greek word N-E-S-T-E-U-O means abstaining from food and drink. So the Hebrew and Greek word themselves mean nothing. That means nothing in your mouth. I will tell you that when I do a water-only fast, in the past, when I've done a water-only fast, the hunger pains were like unbearable. But when I went to no food and no water, you're really mostly thirsty and the hunger pains are bearable. I personally find it somewhat easier to do no food and no water. Now, that is not why I do no food and no water. I do it because I truly believe if you want to biblically fast, you don't drink and you don't eat. Every single time someone fasted in the Bible, it specifically says they did not eat or they did not drink. There's lots of examples in the Old Testament, and it never says that they drank water. Now, there was a time when Jesus fasted for 40 days and 40 nights in the wilderness, and it says he did not eat. It does not specifically say he does not drink, so people assume that. I say don't add and don't take away from the Bible. If a fast never included drinking, why would Jesus just randomly all of a sudden drink? So let's get into, so let me just point this out. The Daniel fast that everybody calls a fast was never called a fast in the Bible ever. When Daniel was doing his diet, I call it a Daniel diet. When he was doing his diet, he only ate fruit and veggies, and he did it to prove to the king that the Lord would sustain him. He did not do it to fast the way that the Lord calls us to fast. He did it as a sacrifice to show that he didn't want to eat the meats that were sacrificed to idols. So he was taking a stand against what they were eating to show that he didn't have to eat their meat sacrificed to idols, that he would be sustained and stronger than the other men just by eating fruits and vegetables. So that's not a fast. It's a diet. The other things that people call fasts, like cutting out social media and no sugar. Those are great things, but they're not fasts. They are sacrifices. So we can make sacrifices. So there's been plenty of times the Lord's been very specific, like this pregnancy, no coffee, which I don't really drink coffee, but like no frappes. Or there's been a time when he told me no more Dr. Pepper. Just because it was affecting my body, he would tell me, you have to stop this, you cannot do this. So I would make a sacrifice out of obedience to cutting that out. Now, if social media is drowning out your relationship with God and distracting you from living the way we're called to live or from following Christ, then he will, and he might ask you to sacrifice that. Now, it's not a fast, it's a sacrifice. A true biblical fast is going to be no food and no water. So to keep this as short as possible, let's just dig into the verses right now. So in Matthew 6, they talk about what to do when you fast. And they talk about don't look gloomy. Don't look like you're fasting. So your fasting should be done in secret between you and the Father. It isn't to be like, I'm fasting, everybody. Look at me. I love God. And he said, if you do that, your reward will be then. People will look at you like you're a good person, although these days that's not really what happens. He says, but instead when you fast, anoint your head, wash your face. Don't look like you're fasting. And what does that mean? That means that fasting is hard. Fasting will hurt. Fasting is a sacrifice, and it is not easy. It is not something that your body wants to go through. And so you are going to be depleted, feel like not good. Joel 2:12, he says, yet even now, return to me with all of your heart, with fasting, with weeping, and with mourning. So a lot of these verses about fasting, he talks about being humble, returning to him, weeping, and mourning. So in our fast, a lot of our fasts are going to be done when we are when we see a certain sin in our life and we are in repentance and we're mourning that happened. There's more verses, and I'm going to keep reading them, but there's more verses about fasting for breakthrough, fasting to break chains. There are community-wide fasts for some huge event to happen, which we'll go over. And then there's simple fasting out of obedience, where the Lord's trying to teach you something, trying to show you or reveal something to you that he really wants you to know, which is a lot of the fast that I have had. There's something that I've been seeking him, and I just can't figure out what the Bible says, what is true. And when I go into a fast and I am tuned in with the Spirit, he reveals so much to me, and I have complete understanding. And like I said, a lot of the things that the Lord reveals to me in fasts are and he reveals them in the craziest ways that you cannot make up. Also, when he asks me to fast, the majority of the time, he will give me a time frame. So if he says 3 days, I stick to 3 days. If he says 5 days, I stick to 5 days. I don't fast until I know how long, and he'll tell me when. And usually the time he tells me are the hardest times to fast. So there will be in the middle of these 3 days, there will be a huge 4th of July party where I have to cook and bring a ton of food and watch everybody eat. So he's not going to make fasting easy. Now, sometimes and fasting isn't easy, period. Don't ever think going into a fast is going to be easy. It will be a self-control, willpower, obedience thing. Okay, so let's keep going. Ezra 8:23, so we fasted and implored our God for this. So there was something they were imploring God for, that they were asking for and desperately crying out for, and he listened to our entreaty. So they often would fast for breakthrough, for asking God for something, for seeking him. Acts 13:2, while they were worshiping the Lord and fasting, the Holy Spirit said, set apart for me Barnabas and Saul. So they, in this case, and there's a few cases in Acts where they were fasting for what to do next, where to go. And like me and my husband, before we started the home church 4 years ago, we did spend 7 days fasting together. And that's when God made it very clear that he wanted us to start a home church. We didn't know what our next steps were. We knew that God wanted us to do something. And so we, in agreement, fasted, and the Lord told both of us to start a home church. So in this case, they didn't know where they were going or who to anoint or who to send off. And they were worshiping and fasting. And that's when the Holy Spirit told them who to send off. Psalm 69:10, it says, when I wept and humbled my soul with fasting, it became my reproach. So a lot of fasting is humility. We're too prideful to fast because we want what we want. We want to feel comfortable. We want to eat. We want to drink. It is crazy. We don't realize the idolatry of food we have until we start fasting for God. Now, I'm not talking about intermittent fasting. I'm not talking about fasting from this hour to this hour. I'm not talking about fasting just until 2 o'clock that day. I'm not talking about fasting for weight loss or fasting for health. Now, those are going to be benefits that you will get for fasting for the Lord. Yahuwah does not give us commands or have ways that don't benefit us. Everything he says and advises us to do is for our good. So when you fast, it will cure cancer. It's proven, scientifically proven. It will help you with weight loss. It will help you with food cravings. It will help you reset your body. There are massive benefits to fasting, but I will tell you, if Yahuwah does not tell me to fast, I am not going to do it on my own will. It is not easy. It's uncomfortable. And when God tells you, he tells you, and you want to keep that covenant and stick with the fast he gives you. And I will give you all some tips after we finish these verses. Sorry, I keep getting distracted. Okay. Acts 14:23, another place where they appointed elders, and with prayer and fasting they committed them to the Lord. Exodus 34:28, now there's 2 times where Moses fasted for 40 days and 40 nights. This is the first time. It says he was there with the Lord 40 days and 40 nights. He neither ate bread nor drank water. And that's when he wrote the 10 Commandments. Now the other time, I have it in here, that Moses did a 40-day fast is going to be Deuteronomy 9:18. He says, I lay prostrate before the Lord as before, 40 days and 40 nights. I neither ate bread nor drank water because of all the sin you had committed. So this is when he found out that the Israelites had sinned against God, like drastically. And he went in humility, pleading on their behalf, and just humble. He couldn't, like, his heart was broken for the way the Israelites had treated the Lord. So it's very specific here that it is no food and no water. Now, scientifically, they say you can't survive more than 3 days without water. I will tell you, I personally, the longest fast I've done so far is 11 days when my daughter was in the hospital. I did no food and no water for 11 straight days. I could have gone way longer, but the Lord specifically told me I had to stop fasting because I was trying pretty much to do it in my own strength to like have the fast heal her. So sometimes we do fast I didn't have bad intentions, but we're doing it incorrectly. So we'll cover that also in the scriptures. But all that to say, you definitely can go more than 3 days. Esther 4:16. Go gather all the Jews to be found in Susa. Hold a fast on my behalf. Now this is Esther. If you guys remember this story, Esther had to, the king at the time was going to kill the Jews, and Esther was going to go approach the king and plead with him not to kill her people, which were the Jews. And so she asked her people, please congregate a fast, all of you. And it was going to be a 3-day fast. So she said, go gather all the Jews, not just some, not just the prominent leaders and men, all of the Jews. And hold a fast on my behalf. Do not eat or drink for 3 days, night or day. 3 full days. It says, do not eat or drink. I and my young women will also fast as you do. Then I will go to the king, though it is against the law, and if I perish, I perish. So she called a fast for the whole nation, all the Jews, and we're talking children, and we'll see this later. We're talking children, adults, women, pregnant women, breastfeeding women, everyone. The Bible never differentiates and never says that fasting is not okay for certain people, for elderly or sick. Okay, we'll cover that in a second. So Isaiah 58, 3-7 talks about fast and how to do it incorrectly. So he says, behold, on the day of your fast, you seek your own pleasure. So fasting for their own, like, I'm going to fast for a mansion. And God didn't tell you to, and you're just wanting what you want. And you oppress all of your workers. Behold, you fast only to quarrel and to fight and to hit with a wicked fist. Fasting like yours this day will not make your voice be heard on high. So a lot of the times the fast is to have our voice be heard on high. So and then sometimes you can fast and like, you're just evil the whole time you're fasting. Yes, I've had those fasts where you're just like, ugh, this is terrible. And you just you're hangry and you take it out on people. And so they're quarreling and fighting, and they're not taking their fast and humbling themselves and spending time with the Lord. They are seeking their own things and doing it really for themselves. Is this such the fast that I choose, a day for a person to humble themselves? It is to bow down his head like a reed, to spread sackcloth and ashes under him. Will you call this a fast and a day acceptable to the Lord? Is this not the fast that I choose, to loose the bonds of the wicked, to undo the straps of the yoke, to let the oppressed go free, and to break every yoke? Is it not to share your bread with the hungry, to bring the homeless poor into your house, when you see the naked, to cover him, to not hide yourself from your own flesh? So in a fast, we want to make sure it's not about us, that we're not just, woe is me, I'm hungry. It's a crying out to the Lord. It's a humbling yourself. It's a begging for bonds to be loosened from the wicked. It is undoing the straps of the yoke, calling for breakthrough, letting the oppressed go free, sharing your bread. So yes, when you're not eating, absolutely feed the homeless, service in fasting. It all goes together. All right, Psalms 35:13. He talks about when they were sick, he wore sackcloth. He afflicted himself, keyword, afflicted himself with fasting, prayed with head bowed on my chest. So fasting is going to be affliction on your body. Know that going into it, because it will take self-control and a covenant with the Lord to get through it. It will not be easy. Luke 4:2, for 40 days, this is Jesus, he ate nothing during those days. So Jesus and Moses both fasted for 40 days. 2 Samuel 1:12. They mourned and wept and fasted until evening for Saul and for Jonathan. So this is when Saul and Jonathan had fallen by the sword. And so everybody mourned and wept and fasted out of grief. So it is normal when someone dies to fast and weep and mourn. When David's son was sick, David fasted and wept while his son was sick and imploring God to save his son's life, which is really what I did when my daughter was in the hospital. Psalms 35:13 through 14. Actually, I just read that. Let's see. In Daniel 9:3, it says, Then I turned my face to the Lord, seeking him by prayer and pleas for mercy with fasting, sackcloth, and ashes. Let's see here. Ezra 8:21, before they were going on a journey, they proclaimed a fast there, that they would humble themselves before God, seek him for a safe journey for themselves, their children, and all their goods. So they're again imploring God for a safe journey. Jonah 3:5 through 9, they called for a fast. So this is when Jonah went into Nineveh and told them, God's going to wipe out all of Nineveh. You're all going to die. They implored God. So they said, no, we believe you. We are wicked. So the king called for a fast and he put on sackcloth. And he called for a fast of the whole nation of Nineveh. Now listen to who he asked to fast. Let neither man nor beast, herd nor flock, taste anything. Let them not feed or drink water, but let man and beast be covered with sackcloth, and let them call out mightily to God. Let everyone turn from his wicked way and from the violence that is in his hands. Who knows? God may turn and relent, turn from his fierce anger so that we may not perish. And that's exactly what he did. He saw their humility. He saw their crying out and their change, their willingness to change, and realized that they were not living correctly. And he called and asked, he literally said, not just all mankind, but even the animals. And so we have to make sure we're not putting conditions on God and saying, well, I'm whatever. If God asks you to fast, do it out of obedience. I promise you, the Lord will keep you. He is faithful. I have fasted in breastfeeding, and I do have breastfeeding issues. So that was a huge decision to obey God when he asked me to fast and I was breastfeeding. And I had more milk than I've ever had in my life when I was fasting. It is just a testament that God honors our sacrifice and he honors our obedience. All right, 1 Kings 21:25 through 27. When Ahab heard those words, he tore his clothes, put on sackcloth on his flesh, and fasted and lay in sackcloth, and went about dejectedly. 1 Samuel 7:6. They drew water and poured it out before the Lord, showing they will not drink water or eat. And they fasted on that day and said, we have sinned against the Lord. So they are giving God a fast of themselves because of their sin. 2 Samuel 12:16. David sought God on behalf of the child. This is when David was fasting for his son to live. Matthew 9:14 through 15. So this is when the Pharisees were coming after Jesus and saying, we fast and your disciples are not fasting. And Jesus said, the days will come when the bridegroom is taken away from them, and then they will fast. So he is saying that when he resurrected, his disciples will fast then, because fasting is putting yourself in the presence of Yahusha, in the presence of the Holy Spirit, in tuning your ear to the voice of Yahuwah. Mark 9:29. This is when Jesus told them they were trying to cast out a demon, and they said that we can't. And Jesus looked at them and said, this kind can only be driven out by prayer and fasting. So fasting also will align your heart with faith. It will help you, like you're going to be reading the word. It says we to live not by bread alone, but every word of Yahuwah. And so you're going to be studying his scripture, studying his word, learning what the heart of Yahuwah, and that's going to build your faith. And so a lot of the times we have, like when God started doing miracles in my life, started healing me and started healing my children, and started to show me that he is our healer, always our healer. I didn't just say, okay, you said that one time, okay, please heal me. No, I had years. And it doesn't take years. What I did, we are conditioned, especially in the church, with all these different beliefs and denominations, to believe all kinds of different things. Our faith is contingent a lot on, like, there's some denominations that say God doesn't heal anymore. So you have to rewrite your mind that the word is true and that what he says will happen. And you have to get out of your head of what you were taught, that God doesn't heal anymore, that God sometimes heals, that God picks and chooses. We have to erase those things. We have to silence them, and we have to put truth on them. And so that can take time. And so it took me, 6 months of just studying, convincing my spirit that the word is true and that God is a healer and that he will, not might, he will heal me for sure. And so in this case, that they could not drive it out without prayer and fasting. So when you're fasting, you're saying, okay, show me what your word says. You're getting serious about what his word says, and you're building your faith to be able to pray healing, to be able to do deliverance. All right, Joel 1:14, again, they consecrated a fast. They called a solemn assembly. They gathered the elders and all the inhabitants of the land to the house of the Lord, and they cried out to him. So they consecrated a fast, and they gathered everyone, all the inhabitants of the land, to do the fast. So church-wide fasting, when the Lord directs a pastor or a church to do that, that is absolutely great. And then there's also just one-on-one fasting that is great as well. So the church-wide fasts are usually for breakthrough, deliverance. Something has happened and you're crying out to God for breakthrough. Ezra 10:6, he talks about Ezra withdrew, went into the chamber of Jehonan, where he spent the night. He did not eat bread or drink water, for he was mourning over the faithlessness of the exiles. So he was fasting over their sin. All right. I read those two. Psalms 109:24, my knees are weak through fasting. My body has become gaunt with no fat. So this is just more evidence that fasting will be hard, that your body will feel weak. A lot of people say they feel like they're dying. You will feel like you have no fat on you. And your body goes into, like, sends signals to your mind. Warning, 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 hungry, hungry, hungry. And you have the fireworks of thunder and lightning bolts in your stomach. We're hungry. It is just your body's signal to eat. It does not mean that something serious is happening, that you're dying or any of that. I can remember when I first started fasting, it's kind of scary to feel that hungry. And it's not fun and it's not comfortable. And so we just have to, going into it, like, I make a covenant with the Lord when I fast. I take it very seriously. I will not break my fast. Trust me, we all have the self-control to do it. You don't have to build up to it. You don't have to be like, well, at least I went a day. No, if the Lord says 3 days, do 3 days. Let me finish this and then I'll talk about that. 2 Chronicles 7:14, again, if my people who are called by my name humble themselves, pray and seek my face, and turn from their wicked ways, I will hear from heaven and forgive their sin and heal their land. So this is a promise from Yahuwah that fasting will prick his heart, will call on, he will open his ears to us if we will humble ourselves, pray, seek his face, turn from your wicked ways. He will hear you from heaven, and he will forgive your sin, and he will heal your land. So sometimes we have sin revealed to us. Sometimes we are stuck, and we need a breakthrough, and we can't hear. We don't know where to go. We are struggling financially. There's so many things. Our health is declining, or we don't know why we had that miscarriage. I'll tell you, I have fasted after miscarriages just to be like, Lord, reveal to me, is there something in me that is allowing this? And the Lord is faithful to answer me even when I don't want to hear the answer. But he says if we will do that, he will hear us. So we do have that promise in 2 Chronicles 7:14. And I know a lot of people hear, like, that's a very well-known verse. If my people who are called by my name will humble themselves. We don't necessarily associate fasting, and we just hear that and we think, oh, let me just pray for the nation. But I believe that's a promise for your family. That's a promise for you. That's a promise that when he has revealed something to you, when you are stuck, he will hear you. You just have to humble yourself. And I believe fast, pray, and seek his face. All these things it's telling you to do are all the things that they did in fasting. Jeremiah 36:9. This is the last verse that I have. I mean, like, there's so many and they're really long. And when you read the Bible, you'll see all of this stuff. But the 5th year of Jehoiakim, the son of Josiah, in the 9th month, all the people in Jerusalem and all the people who came from the cities of Judah to Jerusalem proclaimed a fast before the Lord. This is just to say that fasting is not conditional. It's not for some people. It's not just for pastors. It's not just for leaders. It's not just for the men. It's not just for your husband. It's not just for a church group. It is for all people, all people. Now, my children, I don't ever force them to fast. They see us and they want to. My children have fasted, and some of them have gone 3 days. Some of them have gone 1 day. Some of them have gone 2 days. I don't force it. I want them to do it out of the willingness of their heart because Yahuwah told them to. I want them to do it out of obedience. My children do have a relationship with God. They do spend time in his word, and they do join me sometimes when I'm fasting. They will join our church when we're fasting, and they know Yahuwah because of this, and they just follow in the footsteps of their parents. If my children can do it, you can do it. I am here to tell you, you have the self-control to fast. Don't ever go into a fast saying, well, I'll try. Just like I don't go into homeschool saying I'll try because I'll quit. I don't go into anything saying I'll try. I go into it saying, you asked and I will do it. You have the ability. You have the spirit inside of you. You are not dying. You don't need that coffee. You don't need that drink of water. You don't need that apple that you're watching your child eat right in front of you. You can do it. The power of Yahuwah is inside of you. We have the same spirit that rose Christ from the dead living inside of us. That's huge. Trust me, you can fast. You can seek the Lord. And what really has helped me in my fasting is every hunger pain, every time I'm hungry, every time I make my kids their food and I serve them, I break away to be with the Father. I get my word out and I eat the word of God. So every time I'm feeling hungry, I'm like, signal, I need to be with God. So while my kids are at the table eating, I'm on the couch reading the word, or wherever. I'm in my room reading the word of God, pleading with the Lord, seeking his face, listening. It's not just, let me tell you everything I want and need. It is listening to what he has to say. Let him reveal your heart. Let him reveal your sin. Let him tell you where to go or what to do, or even just teach you his heart. So a lot of times I've been like wrestling with the Lord about doctrine, and I see this in your word, but the church says this, and the forefathers taught this, but your word says this, and I want to know your heart. And yes, there are mysteries of God that we will not ever know until we are in eternity with Yahuwah, but there is so much in the word of God that he wants us to know, that he's revealed to us, and he is like, I have these secrets and mysteries for you. You just have to come ask, come listen, come seek. There are so many things that we don't know that we can know. Every single fast, I grow and grow. Every year I'm in his word, I grow and grow and grow in wisdom and understanding and in knowledge. He is faithful to give that. And so I challenge you. One more thing. A lot of people say, well, I don't know. I don't know if that's God asking me to fast. I don't know if I should. First of all, your flesh will never ask you to fast. That's not something that we desire. So if I have a nudge, an inkling that I need to fast, I will ask God, tell me how long, because I know that that's him. Fasting, I've done it so many times, and it's never easier. It doesn't get easier. My body does not adjust to it. That's kind of the whole point of it, is putting your body in a place of humility and hardship to hear the Lord. And like I said, it turns your body off and heightens. It turns off distraction. It turns off fulfillment and heightens every sense, and allows you to be in a place you weren't before to hear the Lord speak to you. It is a blessing and a gift from God, and I implore you to not go without it, to not sacrifice the joy of fasting, the joy of being that in tune with God and in the presence of God. And just know, if you're like, I don't know if I should I? Absolutely. If you are wrestling in your mind with it, absolutely fast. It will not hurt you. It will only help you. It will grow you, and your flesh is never going, and the enemy is never going to say, oh, you should fast today. That's just not going to happen, because that's escaping with the Father. Jesus often escaped to be with the Father. And I believe in those moments he fasted, because the disciples would always say, eat something, because he wanted to hear and wanted to make sure he was walking in the way of the Father. And that is what fasting is for us, making sure we're aligned with Yahuwah, making sure we're walking in his ways, making sure we're hearing him clearly and correctly. And I'm telling you, if you're struggling with, I don't know if God said that, I don't know his voice, you will learn his voice in fasting. Don't give up, persevere. He has put that power, that authority, and that ability within you to persevere, to be able to fast. You can do it. Do not let the flesh win. Your flesh and your spirit are going to fight in fasting. Your flesh is going to say, you can end early. Your flesh is going to say, you're doing this for you. Your flesh is going to lie and tell you, you're dying. You can't do this. This isn't good for you. You're actually selfish. You're going to hear these voices, and you want to tune them out. You want to put horse blinders on to the word of God. You want to tune into his voice, and you will reap the fruit and the benefits of knowing who he is through your obedience and fasting. I hope this video was helpful. Just sharing the things the Lord has taught me. If you don't, I'm not telling you to believe me. I'm not telling you to do whatever I say. I'm not telling you to fast. I'm telling you to seek the Lord. If he tells you to, do it. And seek his word. Go do a fasting study. If you're like, no, the things that we hear, we don't want to hear. And we're going to justify and compromise. And we're going to be like, well, let me find a verse that goes against what she's saying. I implore you to go do that. And this is a lot of the times when God revealed these things to me. I said, I don't really want to do that. That doesn't sound good. The whole church, like 99% of the church just does water only, or they do the Daniel fast. So if they are fine, then I'll be fine. Let me go find scripture to disprove what the Lord is telling me. Do you know how many times I have found truth trying to disprove what the Lord spoke to me? Like when the Lord brought Christmas to me and how it goes against him and how he is disgusted by it. I was like, well, that's not what I heard in church, and that's not what the books in my shelf say. I went on a 2-year journey to disprove that I was allowed to celebrate Christmas. And obviously, God proved me very wrong, that what he was telling me was correct. And like I said, that's one of the things God revealed to me while I was fasting. One of the things I didn't want to hear. There's so many more, which I will not go into. He might reveal things to you that make you hated, that cause persecution, and that make you be like, la, 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 I didn't hear you. Because the majority of Christians are offended by it or walking in the other direction. So when you change, what they do is they'll say, ooh, you're legalistic. Ooh, you're works-based. Ooh, you're whatever. What about everybody else? Well, he does it, so I'm fine. We have to stop living on the faith of our pastors, on the faith of our church, on the faith of that one person we think knows God so well. And we have to get to know Yahuwah for ourselves. And this is the beginning. Fasting is the beginning. And I'm here to give you that disclaimer. You will be told things you don't want to hear. You will be hated and persecuted for the things that you hear Yahuwah tell you. It will be hard, but you will reap the benefits of obedience, and you will receive the promises and the blessings of God for walking in obedience and walking in sacrifice. Y'all be blessed. I hope it didn't offend you too bad. Love you guys. Bye.